Where's the Line? Welcome to our weekly discussion show where two men of different racial, cultural, political, and religious backgrounds reach across the aisle and attempt to find those greater binds that hold us together.
Yeah,
So
we
we
can
go
write
around
our own
intro.
list.
Well, since we have Elliot, why don't we let Elliot introduce us like old school?
Hey guys, welcome to Where's the Line? I'm Elliot. This is Tillman on the left, Alex on my right. I can remember my directions.
Good job.
Welcome to Where's the Line? Oh, I didn't say my name. Don't you try and gaslight me. Oh, and Tim. Hi.
Hi.
And I'm sorry, I forget.
Sam.
Sam. Thank you. Yeah, Tillman's wife Sam is joining us today.
Wow.
Well, yeah, so.
Yeah, let me start over. Yeah, let me just start.
What's wrong with it? I mean, they're always like us here. It'll probably change your demeanor a little bit.
Anyway, so guys.
Talk about marriage.
So we're talking. Yeah, obviously we're talking about marriage today, but who wants to kick us off with their topic?
I'll run your head, honestly.
My topic?
You had something to talk about today, didn't you?
I did. I mean, I can't not talk about it. I mean, look, just lay it out there. What do you think about Afghanistan?
Is it a real, or is it like is it just an ocean that everyone has?
You got a conspiracy theory?
No.
Flat Earth. Done.
Like,
What?
I'm just saying another conspiracy because
I'm not talking about a conspiracy.
no, I'm saying,
I didn't preface it in any way. I didn't put out there any of my opinion or anything. I just said what I think about.
oh, that's horrible.
I'm probably going to be on the far end of this from everybody, so I'm going to give it to you all the way I feel. Number one, my first thought about Afghanistan and things that happen in there is that as an American, I've always had the viewpoint of why are we in other countries? Why are we there? As I've grown older and studied in things and looked at this stuff, I know why we're there. We're there for control. We are spreading the American empire. But I've always had a position that it's none of our business what's taking place in other countries unless they're plotting to do something to ours. That's the only time we should be concerned with it. So I am not against Biden pulling out of there because I don't think that we ever should have been there because that's not our country. And of course, I can move further than that, but I'll let you start on that.
I mean, we were on the books to leave anyway, so it wasn't really it wasn't really like it was just like Biden hitting the seal. It was the plan.
Yeah, well, and it was planned. But the same thing as well with the Taliban taking over. Like that was a plan. This wasn't like they just jumped up one day and ran and took it over as far as like the insurrection or something like that. Like no, they let it be known like this is what we're doing. The president went ahead and he left because he knows this is what was going to be done. The negotiations, of course, was falling through. The United States is still trying to negotiate with the Taliban right now, but they were like, we're taking back our country. We don't like your democracy. We want things to go the way they had traditionally ran. We want things ran by the Quran. And when you listen to them, well, when I listen to them, I'm not mad at any of the things that they want for their country. Me personally, a lot of people hear it and it bothers them. But to me, I was always taught to be open to other people's religion, to not disrespect other people's religion, and also like one of the points that people always look at is what they say beheadings, or to chop somebody's hand off for stealing and these things, and this is wrong. It's capital punishment, da 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 da. And yes, there are times where people are punished unjustly, but as far as punishment goes from the justice system, the way I've kind of looked at things is like I'll give you one example. With drunk driving, people getting DUIs. I always felt like if you get a DUI, that should be attempted murder. It shouldn't be called DUI, it should just call it attempted murder. Because when you're driving drunk in the streets, you are putting people in a position where you could kill them. You're taking that risk that you could kill someone else. So to me, it's attempted murder. Whether you hit something, you kill somebody or not. And if you put attempted murder on people, where you can do 10, 15, 20 years for drunk driving, I think we have less drunk drivers.
Mm-hmm.
So the purpose to me of these capital punishments, these outlandish punishments to most people, is prevention. Nobody's worried about getting a DUI if you only going to get this fine or slap on the wrist. And in the same way, that's the way they look at capital punishment. So yeah, if you got caught stealing, we have witnesses that you stole. We talk to you and you confess to stealing. The reason I'm speaking on this is because I watched a documentary that my wife sent me yesterday about this, and they was talking to this guy who stole a sheep, and he admitted that he stole the sheep. And they asked him, "Well, did you do anything else?" He said, "No." Okay, cool. Well, more likely than not, the punishment for him is going to be getting his hand chopped off because that's what it says in the Quran. And a lot of people will say that's unjust, but to me, it's like you knew what it was before you did that. The same way that we say in America, you know the laws before you commit these crimes, just follow the law. Even if we don't agree with the law, we expect them to follow it. But when it's the Taliban doing it, we look at it like it's the most evil thing that can happen.
Oh, but dude, you just said that your idea is attempted murder and compared to the extremity of the Quran, where that's not how it is. We do just do jail time. So the reason that is mutilation as a punishment is inhumane.
Mutilation for punishment, yes, it's okay. Put it like this. All right, murdering somebody is inhumane.
Correct, which is why it's a crime.
But we have capital punishment here in America, where we have states that will kill you if you kill somebody.
Right, and how many executions do we do in a year?
We don't do a lot of executions.
Okay.
But we do them.
Okay.
It's not about the number. We're not talking about the quantity. We're just talking about the morality of it.
Okay. And
so in the morality of it, we do that. If you commit this crime, this is your punishment. We will kill you.
Right, but let's finish the whole thought too, because it's not simply I walk up and I shoot Alex in the head.
Don't do that.
I'm just saying theoretically, I am most likely not going to get executed because I will be going to jail for 25 to life.
Yes, most likely.
The people who get executed are like the woman who murdered someone because she murdered a pregnant woman, ripped the baby out, waited for her husband to come home, and killed the husband. That's the person who got executed.
It's fallacy because I can name more people that didn't do anything nowhere near as
So what did they do?
Tookie Williams was convicted of, until the day he was executed, said he didn't do it, but Tookie Williams was convicted of killing a store clerk during a robbery.
Okay,
and shooting a store clerk during a robbery. That was it. It was in like 79.
Okay.
He didn't get the chair until like 2005.
Okay, but still, that's like a crime that was being prosecuted from 50 years ago.
Okay.
Different than contemporary. So we're talking about contemporary 2021 like morality. So
I have a question.
But who's getting executed who didn't commit a crime 30 years ago at least?
What do you I don't understand the question.
No one is being executed today who didn't commit a crime at least 30 years ago. So when you're saying that the crime that I'm mentioning is old,
right?
All execution crimes are back in that time. None of those are contemporary.
My whole I'm sorry not to go on this whole tangent, but my example of how far it is to have an American citizen be executed is a lot harder. Because we don't do there's no lesser demeanors where we just cut off people's fingers or whatever.
Yes.
That's the highest level of crime. They're mutilating people for theft.
Yes.
Okay. Which happens more often, theft or murder? Probably theft.
Yes.
Okay. Just gonna put that out there.
But you're right about that. I'm gonna let you get the ring.
Yeah.
You're right about that. But I will say this: if you know you're going to lose your hand, then you're less likely to commit that theft. So as in where we're assuming that theft is happening at a rate here in Afghanistan that it does in America, I'm sure that rate is far less because they know they're going to lose a hand.
So
it creates it. No, I'm not arguing that it's completely more, but what I'm saying is.
So I think we might need to slow down on that. Alex looks like he has something to say, but I do have one quick question.
Yeah.
And he's enjoying himself. I am concerned about the concept of capital punishments, respective to the country and the legal systems within said country, because capital punishment is, in my mind, a slippery slope. You have to ask yourself what the intention behind the capital punishment is, regardless of what kind it is. I would argue that putting someone away for life in America is capital punishment. You have to ask yourself, why have capital punishment? In a country, especially as young as the Taliban's Afghanistan, technically it's only a couple weeks old when you use that sort of definition. What springs to mind is not capital punishment for the sake of reducing crime. but capital punishment for the sake of reducing dissent. That's what I get concerned about when I hear something like that. I think about Nazi Germany, to be perfectly honest. They spread their secret police all over the country and found little reasons where they could introduce the concept of capital punishment from object to object to object to object until over time they had more and more and more and more control. Whereas when you lock someone away for 25 years, yeah, maybe it's not as scary as the concept of getting your hand cut off the minute that you do something bad. But the point is to be able to rehabilitate. The point is to be able to make a change in someone's life and not just ruin their lives for stealing something. Or in the case of like the state of Texas, you can be tried for capital punishment after 3 offenses, regardless of what they are. It's still felony. That is correct. This point is not to control the people of Texas. The point is to dissuade and if necessary, rehabilitate. Or one would hope that would be the point.
Yeah.
I don't see a rehabilitative point.
Okay, let me say this, okay? And this is what can kind of make me feel this, maybe appear disingenuous. I'm not for capital punishment. What I'm doing is showing what the Taliban is doing versus what America does. And I'm saying I don't see that great of a difference. So if it's okay here, I see it as okay there. There are differences. But I say, like, if you're saying that the Taliban is saying, okay, we're doing this based off the Quran, this is what we believe, this is what we're taught, cool. America essentially says the same thing, but it's based off the Bible. So overarching my opinion, just to get that out there, is that I do not believe in capital punishment. Also, I think that putting someone in jail for the offenses for years and years and years, like we tend to do, i.e. if you get a drug offense and you can do 5 to 10 years, I think that's absurd. I also, because I'm a black man who's been a part of the system, I recognize that the system is set up for people to fail multiple times. There is no such thing as rehabilitation, at least I know here in America whatsoever. So someone getting that hand chopped off and saying, well, that's not leading to rehabilitation, it still compares directly with that. It's still the same to me.
Okay,
You know what I'm
so
saying?
your point at the beginning was more that you think there's a degree of hypocrisy in all this wording of set, not so much. Okay,
Not so much as my
Okay.
personal disingenuous.
And I feel like we've kind of missed the point.
we're talking about.
Do you think that because the Taliban has now taken over the country again, that we now are in a state of worrying about another terrorist attack? The very reason that we were there in the first place. You've not worried about it.
No, I don't think we should have been worried about it from the beginning. Like, we went to the wrong country, we were doing attacking the wrong people. Like, from the
And the dudes are showing up with rocket launchers and messing around in the gym, which I think it was a very weird image to share from the media. That you don't think that they're going to be spiteful at all that we occupied their territory for past 1 year.
This is why I would say they no, because the fear was that everybody who worked with America, we were going to lose essentially. Once the Taliban took over, they were going to just start beheading, killing off these people, executing them. They put 6 cargo planes out there on the strip and was like, hey, all y'all can go. All of the military that was here fighting, that was literally shooting at us, y'all can go. And of course, you hear the sounds of the gunshots and people complaining about it, but they tell you, if you listen, like, they're celebrating. It is war on war, essentially. So they're celebrating their war about shooting off, and yes, it sounds scary, and yes, it's scary for a lot of people, but they allowed 6 cargo planes of people to take off. So when everybody see those cargo planes and people hanging off of them and people who died trying to get on those planes, that wasn't the Taliban chasing them to them planes. That wasn't the Taliban shooting them and killing them. That was people just saying, I want to get out of here. So they're trying to get out of there, and they wind up mobbing one another, essentially, and running each other over.
Just because you see a video of 6 cargo planes and the Taliban letting them leave does not mean the rest of the country has that free will. Because I've seen multiple images of people and seen interviews where they can't get their family members out. They can't leave the country. So you don't think that's just propaganda? I mean, the Nazis put out tons of propaganda. It took 2 years for the U.S. to even enter into World War II.
I don't think it was propaganda because people have been using those images to denigrate the Taliban. So it can't be propaganda for the Taliban if America is only showing it and saying, hey, look at what's happening. People are dying trying to escape, blah, blah, blah. No, so no, it can't be propaganda for them.
No,
It's a negative against them.
it's lies, it's propaganda.
So I have a point for what Elliot said. Elliot talked about his concern for terrorism. One thing I will say is I do not. Well, I'm not foolish enough to simply say that terrorist attacks are not possible. They happen all the time, all over the world, to everyone, from everyone. If your concern is a 9/11 level terrorist attack, that's totally understandable. One thing I will say, and I think Alex probably thought the same thing once you mentioned it, Elliot, it's possible, although looking at his face now, I'm wondering what he has been thinking in the past 15 minutes since he dropped the bomb.
He just likes to make faces.
We do certainly have many systems in place now that didn't exist 20 years ago to protect against terrorist attacks. Now, I'm not going to assume that they all work well, because the only way to know if they're working well is for them to stop working well.
You go force me to get Marcus.
Whether Alex likes it or not, because we've been on this topic. I know, no. I'm done ignoring him because he's been over there with his half smile the whole time. Alex, what are your opinions on Afghanistan?
He's just glad to see us all fight.
Yeah, he's like that uncle at the barbecue.
Normally he's happy.
Wow. There's a lot of points in there.
Our subject.
We could have a whole day.
We discussed this for a purpose, and the purpose was to eliminate. Osama bin Laden was killed in Afghanistan. The terrorists that helped perpetrate 9/11 were there. That was why we were there. The destabilization of the government that occurred as the Al Qaeda forces were moved out created a discourse that we were afraid if we pulled out, what would happen is happening. The Taliban has taken over. It is not as peaceful as I think you're trying to point it out. People cannot get to the airports. They are in fear of their life. There's interviews that are coming out of there now from Kabul and other surrounding areas. The Taliban's, I'm surprised you went there with their enforcement of their Sharia law, but you know, the way that they treat women and girls is absurd. I mean, they will rape them in the street. They will kill them. They will do all kinds of things to them, and it's...
They force kids to wear burqas within hours of them taking over the city. They immediately started oppressing women.
Telling somebody to wear burqa is right.
No, but it's immediately showing you that their priorities are to take control of what women can do.
It's spiritual assumptions.
They essentially always had that anyway.
But for the last 20
Oh, really? But that's
You think that they went to war just so they can oppress their women again? If there are women, what nation? Tell who's supposed to be running? I don't care. Who is supposed to be controlling their body?
You immediately went to me saying that making them wear burqas is the equivalent of
No, he just said rape, and then you came behind it with that. What I am saying is that we listen to the extremes of things and we apply it as if this is just
in the same way that you apply that because of a handful of cops that do stupid things, all cops are bad, all cops are
one
racist.
handful.
Well, okay, they're
All
all
racist.
racist. They're all white people are racist. You make,
I didn't say all white people.
but you've made sweeping generalizations before.
Of white people.
Yes, in
He's sitting in a room full of white people right now. What are you talking about?
because he
I've said one person was racist the whole time.
But back to the point. Yes, they are. Okay, if you try to make a comparison to the United States and Afghanistan in law enforcement, rape, commission of crimes, or anything, I think that's a fantasy. Women over there are mistreated. They are raped. They're raped publicly. Women are pulled, little girls are pulled from their families, their tribes, whatever, and these men do whatever they want to with them. The women are put down. They don't have the right to speak, vote. They have to cover their face. They have to do all these things. There are families left there now that along the way aided in the stabilization effort that America was doing that are in fear for their lives. Right now, the propaganda part that you're talking about is somehow or another you've seen a part that you identify with in some way, that you approve of the way that they're doing it. I think you would have a hard time finding a group of people that would agree with you in the same way that crimes against humanity are crimes against humanity.
Yes.
We don't cut people's hands off in America. We put them in jail.
That is inhumane. Human beings are not made to be put in cages. I'm talking about the hypocrisy here, and you all completely skip over that because we're American. It's okay when we do it.
Judicial system uses incarceration. We don't do maiming, physical maiming of individuals. We don't
It happens.
on the side of the street with a sword and cut their head off.
We shoot them in.
We don't treat our women the way that they do. They have the right to vote, drive, to speak their.
Me Too movement's about abuse inside of an industry. I think you're
It's
mixing.
not inside of the industry. Me Too is not just about inside of the
But if
industry.
you can argue just to argue, then I just say random shit too.
You should remind everything that Alex said, but you're saying that
Yes.
we shoot them in the streets. That's not what is on. It's been designed around. It's like we don't the rate inside of the judicial
Yes, it
the
was.
prison system.
Yes, it was.
What on earth are you going to treat?
Our police in America are designed around killing people in the streets. They have been killing people from the very beginning of their stuff.
I
What are
hate
you
this.
talking about?
Gun violence
Guns are on police officers' hips for what reason other than to shoot?
for defense of the. You're trying.
What are
You're
you talking
I'm
about?
not trying to defend the police's abuses of the system. However, that you're trying to argue that the very existence of police then is inherently going to just be for murder.
So actually, what
Get badges and guns to commit crimes.
Okay, so then we should just
That's
like,
nice.
we're gonna do the whole thing of like, oh, maybe we just have police because that's what I imagine Alex's current thing is. But so then what? Should we just have no sense? Should we just have go off of the general human morality that we should have our laws enforced by just our own individual autonomy?
No, the system is completely flawed. The system has to be broken up. The structure has to be broken down. When you have police who are able to be silent, police able to get away with crimes, police able to control judges, like there's no accountability in policing.
And so,
So
you
the
could say that
system-
happens to us in America, and so then with,
And there's no
with the Taliban, then they have such a great knowledge of.
No, I didn't say they were better.
I think
I'm saying that it's not as far away.
So you're.
I'm saying we are hypocrites to judge it.
We're
Because just like when you're talking about the burqas and how women should dress in the oppression of women, you are Christian. Christianity teaches almost the exact same things. We just don't enforce it because we lack as Christians.
No, it doesn't.
Christianity say women cannot wear earrings or jewelry adorning themselves. I'm tired of doing this right here. We can do that. That's simple. I'll pull it up for you, man.
so.
No, it doesn't matter because is it enforced the same way that the Taliban is enforced?
So that's the thing. That's the thing, though. If our government, if our American government is under God, like we say it is, then we would be enforcing it. And that's also part of why Taliban look at us as infidels, because we don't. Our religion is false here. We don't actually enforce it, but that's what our Bible says. The Bible has the same, almost the exact same kind of restrictions on women that the Quran does.
Right.
We just don't.
Yeah, go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
know, I was just gonna say, the difference between that, TJ, is the fact that in the Bible, God does teach that we choose. We don't have to. That's a choice. When you talk about,
laws.
if you talk about these countries, they're not giving their women a choice. Even men that would not care if their women didn't wear burqas or drive a car or any of those things. They still have to abide by that because of Sharia law.
Yeah.
So you should respect the
Legal
law.
reporters have to wear and act a certain way for their own personal safety.
Safety.
What I'm saying is that there are things that women have to do to be safe, is what I'm saying. I.e., there are women here who walk around and always have a taser with them or mace with them.
The difference.
If the women that I'm saying have to do these things to protect themselves on their own, if laws were put in place to better help these women be safe, why are we arguing that?
I'm not really sure why you're
Why are we arguing that?
arguing what you're arguing. To
Al-
be honest.
The reason I'm arguing is because I see the hypocrisy.
From thing to thing in a
Because
race.
I see the hypocrisy.
Yell louder and say something than do that.
That does feel kind of ridiculous.
So I was,
It does feel like that you're just saying it louder and you're saying the same thing. And I'm sorry, but I don't agree, and it doesn't make sense.
so there's no
Sharon, it does the same thing that the Taliban does, but it's maybe not the exact same, but kind of the same because we invade countries and we kill people and bad things happen in America. You're right, Tillman. Every single time you're going to look at that and you go, yeah, police definitely kill innocent people. That's not how they're designed. The Taliban also kill innocent people. But therefore they are the same. Therefore there is hypocrisy here.
Hey, first and foremost, I'm not in Afghanistan, so I don't know who's innocent, who's not. That's one thing.
What is what you're arguing?
But
Yeah,
No.
that's where it started from.
no, He said people are killing innocent. They're killing innocent people. The Taliban is killing innocent people. He said, I don't know if them people are innocent. That's what I'm saying.
But you could always play that game, man. You could always go, oh, we don't know exact details.
No.
Yeah.
And that's why I was going to continue, because I don't know the exact details. But what I'm saying is that regardless, when I look at
Somebody's trying to take
the
the
situation
off the point.
when I look at the situation between the Taliban and the people that were there in support of the previous government, or i.e. American democracy, when they have support of people there. It's not like they don't have any support for the people who want to live in a traditional way. They want to live the way they were through the Quran. There are people who want to be up under Sharia law. Just like here in America, women are allowed to do whatever they want to. They have that choice. Cool, you do whatever you want to do. But there are many of women who will say to you, nah, I like it the traditional way. I want to stay at home. I want to take care of my husband and my kids. I don't want to be a free, independent woman. I support that. Well, if there's laws put in place that say, nah, lady, you can't stay at home, you gotta work. Are we gonna take issue with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna take issue with that, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Because she has
But-
no choice to stay home or not.
Like, they don't have choices to live under Sharia law or not.
Right.
That's the difference.
Christianity. I mean, I've had the same problem with Christianity.
Well, speaking to you brought up that, I can tell you that legalistic denominations and facets of Christianity, that's a really broad term that encompasses a lot of different denominations.
That's one of the problems.
Do what?
That's one of the problems with it. But go ahead. That is
Well, it's
a term that's so much.
different
Yeah.
ways.
There's also different levels of Islam and
Of course.
they practice that.
Mhm.
You're talking about the Taliban, which would be
The most extreme.
the most extreme.
Right,
We're talking about legalism.
Yeah.
It's backwoods Baptist churches up in North Georgia where they get the snakes out.
I am not saying I am for all the things that they want to do. What I'm saying is that I am for their right to run their country the way they want to.
But not everybody wants it that way. You're acting like they have like 100% support.
I'm not saying.
And they had a government there, and they literally ran them out. It's like
It sounds a little
So it
bit
is an
like you're,
insurgent.
it sounds a little bit like you're saying a political party has the sovereign right to have complete control over a country. But one single political party.
dangerous. Extremely bad.
And your hypocrisy argument, while I understand where it's coming from, therefore, I think I do. I think I understand where your hypocrisy argument's coming from. The problem is that there are certain gaps in difference. One of the biggest ones, she mentioned choice. I'm going to word it like this. We have the freedom of religious expression. I don't have to go to church every Sunday if I don't want to. I don't have to believe it.
You're not the same, believe it or not.
I don't have to believe a thing that's in the Bible if I choose not to.
Correct.
And while in theory, while in theory, someone in Afghanistan technically doesn't have to believe in the Quran, they still have to follow those rules.
Mhm.
Not because of a cultural thing, which is what you're talking about with women protecting themselves. That's a cultural thing. That's a response. It's almost a form of responsibility. There is no law that says that a woman has to carry a taser on her.
Mhm.
In Afghanistan, there is a written law that says you do not have a choice in this regard. That's a big difference. In America, we have tons of cultural restrictions that have formed over hundreds of years of existence in the changing times. Whereas I would say in Afghanistan, you have a couple of people, a very radical, specific, single political party that has violently taken over and decided for everyone else whether they want to be there or do not want to be there, regardless of who is innocent and who isn't. It really doesn't matter. And those choices have been taken away.
And we end up in the situation where now we watch and see what they do, because the current situation is they haven't done anything, they haven't ripped people's heads off in front of people or done anything like that, but we don't know what's going to happen. So, and that's the thing where we're at right now, and as our part of it is we're watching to see, are they pulled back and going to be volatile, or are things going to be, have they reformed and changed? Because women can drive cars there now. They kept that. That's what I heard. That's at least what I've recently reported. But women still have like a lot of different restrictions on who they're allowed to make decisions, like their husband or whatever, stuff like that. who knows whether it will go to be as bad as we're saying, where women are raped in the streets or people are being beheaded.
We had video of them shooting, not protesters, but those that were celebrating the Afghan birthday or holiday or something. They shot at the crowd. The Taliban shot at that crowd because the Afghanistan government is gone. It's the Taliban now. I mean, so the spirit of that type of behavior is already there.
I hate to use a big H word, but like the Holocaust didn't just
I
happen.
was thinking, what, happiness?
The Holocaust didn't just happen. It started even pre like Nazi takeover with the taking away of Jewish property for the sake of enriching the Nazi state. Even before the anti-Semitism truly infected the Nazi organization, it all began with the restriction of
Well,
rights.
here's a good example. Right now, I mean, in most places, I can walk down the street. Now we've touched on this before. There are places that I probably don't need to be. Downtown Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, 2 a.m. A little white guy walking down the street. It's probably not the safest thing for me to do. But in most cases, I can walk anywhere I want. I can have a cross on my shirt and walk along, and nobody's going to do anything. I bet if I did that in downtown Kabul today, it probably wouldn't end well. What do you think?
Oh, I would not be outside.
I mean, but again, back to the freedom. I mean, the reason that I said one word to start all this, Afghanistan, I was more focused on the cluster F that has been the pullout that created the chaos. I was not going to go anywhere in the direction that you went, and I don't know why in this case, you're picking a side and you're picking a pretty radical side.
Well, see,
And I'll let you talk
I'm
like a half.
clarifying. You're saying I'm picking a side. That's a statement you're making about me. I'm not picking their side.
Don't twist it. You said
That's what I'm saying.
you know he's not saying that you're joining the Taliban. He said you're picking a side as in you're picking an able
Point.
group.
No, you're wrong. That's where he's going.
He said, Alex,
He said you're picking a side and you're picking it very vehemently.
do you think the Taliban was picking the Taliban?
No, I didn't think you were like going to go join the Taliban.
No, I'm just saying joining the Taliban, but you're saying that's the side that I stand on. And I'm not saying I stand on the side. I'm saying we're hypocrites.
And we're agreeing.
And I'm saying it's none of our business.
But
That's all I'm saying.
Alex was not saying you're on that side.
That's not me picking their side, though. It's not me saying they're right.
I get the feeling you just want to argue. So I'm good. I mean, I didn't expect that conversation. I was more concerned about the humanitarian component, the lack of planning and preparation that went into it, a complete, utter failure on the Biden administration, lack of the ability to have accountability about it and deflect and then say, oh, by the way, y'all all got to wear masks because of COVID is a distraction from what's really going on.
I guess we could always come back to that next month.
I mean, that's where I was going, but still another shit.
It's just an excuse to yell at Biden.
Y'all can go anywhere with that. Like the issue that's going to be for China and Russia is they swarm into this country over the rights to the rare elements and resources that are there. So China and Russia are going to come in there. Do we think they're going to treat those people with humanitarian concerns? They don't do that to their own people. What's going to happen to the Afghani people? What happens on a global scale now that you've got a country that, even before 9/11, when we went over there to make things right for what happened, back in the 70s, the 60s and the 70s, there was a war between Afghanistan and Russia, where Afghanistan was the only country in the world killing Russia, and we secretly, through the CIA and whatever else, or whoever does that, we funded them, and helped them fight off the Russians
And wait for 1,000 years.
their belief system, the way that they
Belief system. I'm talking about them. I'm talking about the organization to actually take over.
Yeah, because that's when they started. We gave them the guns that they're
Well,
using.
in regards to that, if we
It was
want
part of Biden's pullout. He left behind.
if we want to look at the historical spiral, we can go as far back as Britannia invading Afghanistan. If we really want to look at the historical effects of the rest of the world in Afghanistan leading to now.
Well, I don't think it's been a natural buffer.
I don't think that having swords left over is probably talking the historic
They still got
spiral.
horses.
Yeah, they're the horses.
I'm talking the historical conflict spiral.
I thought they ran around Afghanistan.
Well, it's always been a natural buffer between China and Russia. That's where they come together. And I think we all agree that we don't want Russia and China fighting, and we don't necessarily want Russia and China getting together,
You damn sure don't want
but more than what they already are together. So, there's a lot of implications to this whole pullout. And even though, I'm going to go back to the previous administration, even though they had expressed a desire to pull out, at the advising of all of the military people that were there, they kept enough forces there to keep it stable.
Mhm.
And, if you say, why are we still there? We were still there for that reason. Now, did we need a plan? Did we need an exit strategy? Absolutely. But I don't think that exit strategy was like, see ya. Good
Yeah,
luck.
because we had like 4,000 something troops there,
Fallout.
something like that. Yeah, so I mean, relatively not.
Well, the
If you were thinking about the number of people we had there, 4,000 for an entire country is not a lot of troops.
Well, but what made it influential was the Air Force power that we had there, the flyover capabilities. Well, right, because they're limited. It's an underdeveloped country.
Yeah.
They didn't have we were able to press down what if there was an uprising that was not in line with the Afghanistan government, with the president who was elected through a democratic election, who fled the country to save his own butt, probably knew what was coming. He probably got a heads up. But the reason that calm stayed was because we had that flyover capability to keep everything peaceful. You pull all that out, and this is what happens. And I mean, I'm never going to agree with you that cutting off someone's hand is an appropriate punishment for stealing, because there is no opportunity for rehabilitation. The capital punishment in America is a joke. If you can spend 25 or 30 years on death row, then it is not the deterrent that it should be. But I also don't think you chop people's heads off in the street the same way that you don't take a man and string him up on a tree because you think he's guilty of something.
You let me talk for 30 minutes. I didn't say that's all was okay.
You talked about
Get to it versus America. That's all I was saying. I'm not saying any of these things, okay? I just
When
want
this
to
plays back, you
Like,
realize
I
that
think
what
that-
you said was a lot different than what you
I think the problem.
I'm sure it sounds bad.
Look, regardless of whether we're talking about whether it's like comparison to America or comparison, you pointing out hypocrisy, okay, great, but it doesn't do anything. Like, it's more, we're talking about an actual topic. Like, yes, we can say that killing people in the streets is bad, and America does it too. Great. Does that help move anything forward?
Yeah, I think it does. I think it can change the way that people view things.
Like how?
I.e., if you're able to, no, honestly, no. Definitely. If you see me steal something,
and I just
you're
drop
like,
my hand off.
hey, cool, somebody chop his hand off, right? And then your wife taps you like, hey, you stole something yesterday. Gotta remind you. Or I know your wife even say, I stole something. It puts things more in perspective.
You gonna chop her hand off?
You see what I'm saying? So maybe I shouldn't chop his hand off. Maybe I shouldn't have his hand chopped off. But he does need to be stopped and caught. So now you're taking a little less approach to it.
But that's
I
not
don't
what you
think that
said.
we should be.
No, it is, but
This is
you
what I'm
keep saying
saying.
it more
I don't think
aggressively.
we should be looking at the extreme as if it's the norm for them. You see what I'm saying?
But-
Because I experience America the way that I do, and I see the flaws in America consistently. And I see the flaws, the things that they do wrong. I realize that those might just be extremes. Because as a black man, I am on TV all the time with my extremes. That I'm a murderer and I'm a thug and I do this and I do that. And so I see those extremes of me all the time in America. So when I see those extremes, I'm like, that's not the normal.
But you're defending so vehemently about this idea that you would say, oh, by the fact that I'm recognizing that someone could be punished this badly, that maybe someone realizing that would help them not do it. Even for clarity.
Yeah, essentially, I think that if they see this, and they see how bad, okay, cool, they're doing this, that, and the third. But they also see, well, we do this, that, and the third as well. So maybe we should do better here. So instead of worrying about what they're doing, it's out of theirs.
So your entire point was to just say, we shouldn't talk about Afghanistan, we should be talking about America.
Yeah, we should be concerned. That's not our country. Get the plank out of your eye before you blow the sawdust out of someone else's. That was all my point was essentially.
Okay, and then I'm with you entirely on that because but to a certain point, because I think we all understand that we don't live in an isolated world anymore. It's not when you can fly over an ocean in a couple of hours.
Yes.
It's not like when it was back when World War II, where it took a lot longer to have a dangerous thing happen to you. Harbor happened.
Tillman,
But also too, like when we talk about some of these things, I am a conspiracy, so I do see things like when you mention Pearl Harbor, I look at that differently.
You think that Pearl Harbor was an incident?
I have one last thing. Which is what you said, plank and speck in the eye.
Oh, God.
Alex, you're a therapist.
No.
No.
Question.
No. I'm not.
That's a statement.
I'm not. Statement fact. Alex, you're a therapist.
I suppose.
You have problems.
I suppose.
You're still a therapist. You're allowed to help other people with their problems.
I suppose.
We have problems. So I'm going to just frame this. An EMT is taught to help people who are hurt without hurting themselves. They are taught that. They aren't taught to leave the dying person alone because it's their problem.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that Afghanistan is our problem, regardless of the problems that we do have. Because while we do have them, we can still help.
And certainly at this point, where we were talking about
Here's the idea that it no longer affects us because it's not our country, regardless of if you think we should have been there in the first place, it doesn't matter. We were there. We made enemies. The idea that that could never come back is a fallacy.
Look, man, our kid's 20 years old. He's kick him out of the house. He'll be fine.
It's like I do think that you might say that it's not our responsibility, or that it's we have our own problems, and I agree with you. We do have our problems, and I think I understand where you're coming from in terms of like. I don't want to use algebraic terms, but that's the way that I view it. So literally, I'm thinking about it in terms of algebra. But it's like, I think I understand where you're coming from. The only
I
problem.
said that like 5 times, so where is he coming from?
He's coming from this idea where it's like, okay, we're seeing other people do really bad things that are an extreme of the bad things that we do now. We should fix the bad things that we do now before they get extreme.
We should not have any bad things happening before we go deal with other people.
We shouldn't have any, but we should try to deal with the ones we have.
I understand that.
We're not actually attempting.
But as big of a country as this is, and as big of a government as this is,
Which?
some people, America,
Okay.
some people can fix those things, while other people deal with other problems. But we can do more than one thing at a time. I do think that Afghanistan is something that we should, in the very least, concern ourselves with.
Like, America cannot, for whatever reason, they don't know how to help a country without spreading their ideology.
I think that's any country that's going inside of another country is going to do that.
Yeah,
But if you really care that much about the humane aspect, then maybe that's the approach America should take versus spreading its empire, which is what they should. I mean, if you look at South Korea, the Philippines, Puerto Rico, I mean, even Cuba, like they tried to take over Cuba. The American government tried to take over Cuba. It's all about control.
You're an American.
Right.
You're in America.
Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico wanted to become a territory. It's still South Korea.
At least the people in charge.
And
Who's to say that that's what they really wanted? I mean, even the Philippines, I mean, it's the same thing.
I think we should see about moving on to our last topic of the evening.
I actually gotta get going.
It's 4?
It's 4. Yeah, we're on that one for almost an hour.
I think we should
I'm
probably.
going on that one for almost an hour.
Almost an hour.
Since we just started.
Yeah,
Definitely, man. Thanks.
So I love you. It's like I want to make sure.
No. We're good, man. I'm not. You don't think I'm big.
We got heated, and I just don't want you to feel like Elliot's such an asshole.
And we've been trying to get more heated, honestly, on purpose. So.
Yeah,
Leave.
sure thing. 9/11 was an inside job.
Best friend.
No. You don't believe that.
Oh, you don't?
No, he doesn't believe that. I do.
I know.
all right, Tillman.
Well, can we not do the last topic, or do we need to do?
No, you don't have to do it. If y'all didn't stop, and yeah,
15 minutes.
if you didn't stop, we can stop. That's fine.
Yeah, because you're editing.
I do feel like I might end up pulling a lot from that because we spent 30 minutes of that last topic
Oh, no.
literally just going back and forth saying the same things over and over and over again.
That's the point of what we're doing.
Yeah.
to wrap things up in a way,
Yeah.
is to have the hard discussions that people should be having and
Mhm.
end up being family and friends afterwards. I mean, that's what Where's the Line is all about, right?
Yeah.
And whether or not it's culturally or racially charged, there's so many things we don't agree on, but you can have a discussion about it and sit back and say, okay, I hear you. I don't agree with you,
Yeah.
or I hear you and I don't agree with you. And, I think, as a matter of fact, that whole discussion folded in a lot of points of what happens in arguments is that, all right, now, we brought the Bible into it. We brought, the government America as an oppressor to other countries, spreading their empire. We brought women's rights into it. We brought cutting off people's hands for theft, capital punishment, and and the Taliban is justified because that's their belief system, and America's doing it wrong, and the hypocrisy of that. All of that in a discussion is usually what happens around the coffee table with a family, or if some buddies after work are sitting and talking, because we do kind of what I heard a lot of that is I heard your passion for topics coming out of that. Whether or not I agree with the specifics of what you talked about at all,
Exactly.
but it is your passionate nature, and you do have a tendency to question anything, the structure. Like, I don't know. I mean, and I will tell you when you go back and watch this, some of it was kind of absurd, but okay, I was with it. I was just quiet. I'll let y'all two figure it out. But,
I think Tillman was coming out with an argument he wasn't expecting to make.
well, I think what it did is it reflected your personality and who you are, and that's what we want. And for a rare moment, you got a different glimpse of my personality because I didn't engage in that one. I figured Elliot had an element you fired up. But this is this is why we can have a hard discussion and be able to walk away still friends, still people that communicate, because the line there is obviously you have some strong beliefs about hypocrisy. If we're going to look at them and say that's bad, we need to kind of check ourselves first. That was your overarching theme, right? I'm with you on that. But we're pointing out that, okay, well, we might have flaws, but we don't rape women in the street. We don't make them wear head coverings. We don't, they castrate little girls there too. I mean, that's a part of Sharia law. That's something that I don't understand. They have other laws that we would agree with, and they will kill people when they discover they were supporters of America. I mean, it's going to happen if it hasn't already. And playing the devil's advocate, if that's what you're doing, or saying, hey, they're doing good, that's your nature. And that showed in the argument, that's fine. Because my nature is to argue back with you, but I just kind of sat back and let that one go. Because, so it would be like at Christmas dinner if this kind of topic came up. I would hope that families would be able to engage in it. And even though there's emotions and there's passions, that you're able to talk it all the way out where everybody says, okay, I kind of get where you're coming from. I don't agree, but I get it. Right? And that you could do the same too the other way, because now we know where the line is. I mean, I told you all along, I can be moved. I don't think I can be moved on this one. But you've established where your line is, and our hope would be that we could move you over a little. And I think you kind of broadened what your original statements were as you moved along with it. But the hypocrisy point you stuck with, and we can always say that. So that is the goal. That is the outcome that we want from Where's the Line.
I'd actually like this to at some point in the future, a more focused discussion on cultural hypocrisy is a really interesting thing that we could dive back into.
Okay, well, when we have a 2-hour special, we'll jump into that, because I can't see that going 15 minutes. But no, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but I would think that this is what we want, because it's not all about like racism in America, or bad policing, or the government issues that we have, or the current, administration, or whatever other little area that we can pick on, Britney Spears, or the Olympics, or American patriotism. These are the things right now, this week, somewhere, somebody's having this discussion. And what we hope is that we're modeling a way to do it. Nobody got up, you got a little worked up there for a moment, but nobody got up, punched each other, nobody said F you and walked away. We talked it out, and I'm down with that. That's why I was observing more than participating. So I call that a really good, successful conversation.
Yeah, oh no, of course. And that's what I said.
I still think you're wrong.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I knew, like, that's what I said from the very beginning. When I went to that, I was like, all right, I already know that
It's not.
not gonna look good.
It's not where I intended that conversation to go. And
No,
I hope that you leave as much of that in there as possible because that's kind of what happened.
no, I'm gonna leave. I'm definitely gonna leave most of it in there.
Because if you,
What you're supposed to be, which is being calm and trying to work through it and see why I sound crazy.
there's a lot
And
of
you didn't trigger that, and
Yeah, there was a lot of you can see how big my eyes got.
But like, if it wasn't for you doing that in that moment, it's like Elliot wouldn't start to get it where I was standing at, and then I couldn't open up. You see what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying.
Began to realize there was a degree of dissonance in terms of where people were arguing.
Yeah.
One person was going this way, and the other person was going this way, and they were headed for a crash.
I still like the way Tillman said that. Well, if you weren't there helping to keep calm, Elliot wouldn't have got to where I was.
Look, he didn't get to where I was at, but he wouldn't have saw where I was coming from. You hear me?
Yeah, that's why you two butt heads sometimes. Is because he's gonna be like, well, you can't just say that. Well, why can't I just say that? That's kind of fun.
Why can't I?
Why can't I say it? Because I said you can't. Well, who are you? Well, who am I? That's what I said. I said it. You didn't say it. Yeah, I did. Please don't put that in.
But that's what.
Make a gif out of it.
All right, wrap it up.
Well, thank you very much for watching tonight, and I don't think I've ever been so offended, Alex.
You'll get over it.
Even more offended than the ROTC guy.
Thank you for watching Where is the Line? We had a heated discussion today, but everyone ended on a good note. So thank you. Please like and subscribe. Does that please you, Alex?
And share.
Well, shit.
It
That's implied.
don't make no difference what you say about it. No, no, things can't stay the same. No, no.